Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Riley K. Jones. I'm a writer, teacher, and author tuber. And today we're going to talk about my August book reads. So this August I did not get as much read as I would like, especially because it is August, prepping for the school year. So I ended up doing a lot more schoolwork / revision work and writing than I did reading. But I did read 2 books this August. The first book that I read is actually one that I am going to be teaching, so it was kind of, I read it out of necessity, but I'm also really glad that I did read it. Like, I think it was awesome, and that is Stephen Crane's The Red Badge of Courage. The Red Badge of Courage was definitely something that had been presented to me to read in the past, especially in high school. And since it was about war, I never really wanted to pick it up. I was more like, if I had to read a classic novel, I'm reading Jane Austen because I love me a good romance. And so I never really thought I would pick it up, but I was asked to teach it this year and I was like, you know what? I want to give it a try. It's actually quite short. The copy that we have at my school is less than 200 pages long, so it really is an easy read, and I listened to it on audiobook, and it was about, I will put how much it is on the screen, but it was pretty short, so it is an easier read. However, it does deal about a lot of heavy topics, so it's not a book that I'm like, ooh, I loved, but it's such a great intellectual book that I'm excited to dive into with my students, even though they're only 6th graders. I'm so excited to just kind of combat some ideas that he presents. So what is The Red Badge of Courage about? The Red Badge of Courage takes place in a battle in the Civil War. I forget exactly which battle. I'll put it on the screen for you guys because I can't remember the battle of the Civil War. We follow the perspective of this one person named Henry, who is also known as the Youth, and he signs up for the war for this romantic, glorious purpose of being like, I'm going to do my duty and fight in battle, but then quickly realizes he has to combat the fear that he faces as well as the cause and the reason to fight versus the innate desire to want to get the heck out of there. So he goes on that journey and you go through his perspective and see the effects of the war taking place, from the idealistic expectations of glory and all these lofty ideas to going completely to fear, and then finally going to a redemption and being like, I'm going to actually have what is real courage. And so it was a fascinating read on that aspect. I really can't wait again to get deep into it with my students and just talk about what makes courage and all those things. So on the whole of the book, I would say that it's not a book that I want to read by myself. Some people can read intellectual books and be like, oh, this is fabulous, I can just talk about it with have an inner dialogue and be completely fine. But I feel like this is one of those books that you have to just talk out in an academic setting, or even a book club setting. Talking it out with other people is going to be really cool. I can't wait to do that because it is a more of a deeper level book. There's a lot of symbolism, a lot of psychoanalysis that I'm excited to get into. But if you just kind of glance at it at a whole, it's not that shocking and amazing book, and it's not even a book that I would even put on my top 10 list, but I see why it's used in a lot of education, because it just really digs deep into some of those ideas and human experiences, as well as touches on something that happened in American history. So I liked the book. It was, again, it's not my favorite classic. A lot of other classics would come before it, including The Great Gatsby and Jane Austen's work and Poe and some other of those authors I would put higher up on my ranking of classic literature, but it was also a really good read. So I would recommend you reading it, especially if you can have a partner to read with and discuss about the feelings and the concepts that he brings out. It is very much a fun book in that aspect. And I think it's more fun to talk about the book than actually reading the book, which may not be your cup of tea, but if it is, definitely recommend. The next book that I read in August, and I have been trying to read this for a whole year, was Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth. So this is the fourth installment in the Percy Jackson series, and it's not the book's fault that it took me almost a year to read it. I just kept getting excited about other books and wanting to read them, especially other thrillers, and also some other books that I had purchased and was just super excited about. So Percy Jackson just took kind of like a little sit on the shelf for a while, but I did finally finish it this August, and I don't know how I feel about this one. There was a twist that I really appreciated. I don't know if this one was my favorite one. It was good. I think the whole series though, when you look at it together, is good. I'm working through the fifth one right now, so I hope to finish that by the end of the year. But I love the series. I just don't know how much I loved this one. So this one takes place where Percy goes back to camp where they are trying to go through this labyrinth. So a labyrinth is a maze, as you see on the cover, and it was then rumored to be set up by this, I don't know how to say his name because, like Percy, I'm dyslexic and it's Greek, and unfortunately, unlike Percy, I don't understand Greek pronunciation very well, but I think it was like Diocleus, if that is correct.
Daedalus.
But he like had developed this labyrinth, and I loved the lore in this book and the way that Royden really used the labyrinth and to explain like different things where like there are different portals all throughout the world, and like it's kind of hard to find, you get lost. Like there was a lot of aspect and danger in that, and I think like it was done well. It was, you had the hero's journey, and then I think though it's just like really setting up for the last one. So I feel like this was more of a setup book for the last one, but I am loving the series, so I do highly recommend the series. Some other thoughts is, and this is kind of a little spoilery, so if you don't want to know the spoilers, you can skip ahead. I'll put the time here for you, but I'm kind of confused with the whole like Percy and then Annabeth kisses him, and then Percy's like, they just don't talk about it again, but he wants to talk about it, but then all of a sudden there's Rachel there, and I think it's kind of like he likes her, but like doesn't know how to word it, but then it's like doesn't think that I was kind of confused about that. I know that's not really the main purpose of the book, the love triangle or love subplot, but I'm kind of shocked that Percy didn't at least talk to her about it, or Annabeth talked to him about it. Maybe it's just inconvenient, and that's why. So I hope in the fifth one that they finally work out that. I think they probably do in some aspect, but yeah, it wasn't really my, I love romance, but I'm just kind of like, I'm like wondering how that's gonna work out. I hope it works out in the fifth one. And those are the two books that I read. I do highly recommend both books. So if you are looking for that, especially if you are a parent out there and looking for a middle school book read, Percy Jackson and the Last Olympians is for mostly middle grade. And the Red Badge of Courage is actually listed as a fourth grade reading level. I don't think it is on par with most fourth grade reading levels, especially because it does deal with some issues of death and some gore, so I wouldn't really say it's fourth grade appropriate. But if you're thinking about like, oh, it's gonna be this daunting hard book to understand, it's technically for a fourth grade reading level. So I would highly suggest reading it, and it's totally fine for if you are in middle school or high school or older. And that is all I have for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please do make sure to give this video a nice big thumbs up. It lets me know that you like videos like this one. And if you haven't already, click subscribe. I release all new videos on all things writing and reading every Thursday. And be sure to let me know in the comments below, what books did you read this August? And have you read the Percy Jackson series? Have you read Badge of Courage? What were your thoughts and opinions on those books? Try to keep it as spoiler-free and friendly as possible. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep writing, keep reading, and stay creative. Bye!